I wanted to tell you another story of something that I found very spiritual. And that is, 2 years ago, I want to talk about my friend Nadia. And 2 years ago, Vance and I are watching a documentary on Amy Poehler. Now, does everybody know who Amy Poehler is? She was in Saturday Night Live. You know. Well, she's the co-founder of a group called the Upright Citizens Brigade. You might have heard of them. They're a pretty well-known improv group. And I'm watching it, and I said, you know, Nance, of all the things I've done, you know, acting, directing, and stuff, I've always wanted to do improv. I've never done it. I'm a big fan of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Both the English version, which is pretty cool, and the American version. I like them both. And I really want to learn how to do improv. And Nance said, you know what I'll do? I'll give that to you for your birthday. I'll give you lessons. I said, you're going to give me lessons? No, and I'll pay for it. So I said, okay. So 3 weeks later, I'm on a bus into New York going to study improv. And I found a group called Improvolution, which is pretty good. They're Groundling based. Now the Groundlings are mostly in LA, but you know, people like Will Ferrell and a few other people are from the Groundlings. So I joined this group called Improvolution, and I went to my first meeting. And my usual modus operandi, I showed up about an hour or 40 minutes before the class started. And I brought my pen. I had my pen. So I'm sitting there and I'm writing in my notebook, and I'm writing things like, I don't know why I'm writing in my notebook, and that type of thing. And I pulled out my iPhone, and I looked like I was checking messages when I was playing solitaire, and doing a whole bunch of stuff, just waiting. All of a sudden, this woman comes in, and she says, hello, I'm Nadia. And I said, hello, Nadia. Well, she was all of about 5'2", with a tremendous British accent and a great smile. And she said, is this where the improv group is going to be? And I said, yes. She said, well, I'm your instructor. And I said, well, I'm your student. And she went, really? Because I think she was taken aback about my age, you know. Finally, the other students started coming in, and they were all in their late 20s and their early 30s. And I thought, oh my God, what did I get myself into? I'm going to be doing this. And I said, I'm going for it. I don't care. I'm going for it. So we started in with the exercises, and I got to tell you, it was great. I was so afraid that they were going to treat me like I'm an old man. And Nadia and the folks did not. They did not treat me that way, and I was one of the guys. And that's when the creativity started. Well, there were some challenges. I mean, she'd have an exercise like, okay, everybody on the floor. Okay, everybody up. Okay, everybody help Dennis up. But other than that, I could do pretty much everything the other people could do, and the creativity started with the improv, and it was just wonderful. I mean, we did some very serious things like inmates on death row having a Tupperware party. That was fun. 5 clowns at grief counseling. We had one guy who was crying and beeping his horn at the same time. So it just went on, and we had a final show, which was a production, and it went very well. But you know, halfway through the improv classes, Nadia says, I'm going to take everyone aside and critique them. And I said, you know, I thought, oh, that's cool. And when it was my turn, she took me aside and she said, Dennis, what do you think you need work on? And I said, I think I need work on listening. And she said, You know, that's a very good thing to look at because everybody gets so much better when they truly listen. I had a hard time listening. And I know these exercises that you and I could do to bring your listening skills higher. Will you let me help you? And I thought to myself, I am in the presence of an artist and of a teacher, all of 30 years old, an artist and a teacher, and a very, very spiritual woman. Well, after the class was done and we graduated, I really kind of became friends with Nadia. And she had a couple of business things that she wanted to do, and I had a couple of meetings with her. But I also wanted to hook her up with a minister friend of mine who does a creative artistic ministry in New York and does a lot of ecumenical stuff. And I set up a meeting, and Nadia and I went to see him. And I found out things about Nadia that I never knew before. One of them was that she was a Pakistani Muslim. And she and her family were very orthodox, and they decided to go a different route. And she used to wear a burqa. Well, he was also in the consulate at the UN, and she was born in the United States and raised in England, and she had an American passport, I think a Pakistani passport. And I'm just amazed at this person. I just want to tell you a little bit about improv, why it's so different. When I studied acting, you think about me, the role, the part, and me, and me, and me, you know. In improv, it isn't me, and it isn't you. It's what you put in the middle, and the creativity that happens in that. And when you build something together, you're now in what they call the theory of yes and. And yes and means that you're not supposed to be negative. If your partner says it's raining, the worst thing you could say is, no, it's not. Now there's no place to go. So if your partner says it's raining and you say yes and, it's a good thing we brought our umbrellas. And she'll say, yes and, too bad yours is broken. You know, it goes on and on. And it's a very, very positive, collaborative effort. And I was thinking of sending Yes and down to Congress, but I never done it. But when Nadia told me that she was a Pakistani Muslim, I realized that this is a pure spiritual Christian value that I relearned. And isn't it wild that I relearned it from a 29-year-old Pakistani Muslim? So, that's what I have with Otherworldly, and that's about all I got. There ain't no more. And I thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate your time, and God bless. I can't wait to hear all the other stories.